Everyone deserves that space of fantasy and play and imagination and joy. And when it comes to Star Wars, you know, it's a galaxy far, far away. It's an entire universe, and that means that it should reflect the entire world.
First of all, both of you have been on a whirlwind press tour. I saw you serving looks in the UK. You look amazing. You look amazing today. Manny, I want to start with you because this tour has brought you home in a sense. BC native, right? You're in Canada.
Yeah.
Tell me about what your friends and family thought of you joining the Star Wars universe.
They were all excited just as much as I was. I never would have thought I would have been able to say that I was a part of Star Wars, you know, just as a Canadian boy growing up. Yeah, it was a huge feat. I mean, I don't think it's hit yet, but maybe once the show comes out, I can give you a bit more feedback once that hits.
Well, we are so proud to have, obviously, Canadian inclusion in the Star Wars universe. Not just you, but like Paul Hyung-sung Lee is also part of the Star Wars universe. So it's so great to have you here. Now, Amandla, I want to also talk to you about you being involved in this and the physicality. We see you doing some fight choreography with Lee Jung-jae, and it's like dance, you know, especially that scene. It reminds me of dance, but also a little Tai Chi, some Asian influence in there. Tell me about the preparation for that kind of physicality.
Sure, yeah, dance is such a wonderful way to put it. That's really how I think about it. That's what I learned about stunt choreography working on this, because I hadn't had that much experience before. But we were trained by our master, Jun Cheng Lu, and I had a little bit of a foundation of Wing Chun before I went in, because I signed up for classes because I was terrified and I knew what was coming down the pipe. And it just started with boxing, drills, really working on form and like placement of the hips, and because that's such a huge part of martial arts, is like where the power comes from in your hips. And so we did a lot of those, and the breath work and the relaxing and letting it flow through you. And doing that scene with JJ really did feel like dancing, and it was so cool to bounce off of each other's movement style.
He's so beautiful also in the like with his experience,
so
obviously,
wonderful.
right? Like, let's talk about from the physicality of it to the emotional connection. I spoke to him and I asked him about the special relationship between a Jedi Master and a Padawan. And he had a thoughtful answer about how being a Jedi is honorable, but quite lonely. Let's talk about that special relationship between Padawan and Jedi Master and your relationship working with him in that regard.
I think it's one of the most interesting parts of the Star Wars universe because it's such an intimate relationship, you know, between teacher and apprentice. But at the same time, Jedi are much like monks, and they're not allowed to form emotional attachments. And so I think throughout a lot of Star Wars narratives, it's like this sort of heart-wrenching element where there's this bond and this closeness, but at the same time it has to be boundaried. And you see JJ playing a Jedi Master who is struggling with that sort of decorum of the Jedi because he has a big feeling heart. And my character is very similar, which I think is what makes them so connected.
Well, you know, on the other side of it though, Manny, I love your character's description of Jedi. Quote, you say, the piece that the Jedi runs the galaxy for is a lie. Thank you for being a real one, because like as much as we love Jedi, I have struggled with the fact that these people take kids away from their family. Like,
Oh yes.
How does the Acolyte give the Star Wars audience another perspective on the Jedi that we may not have explored before?
Ooh, I mean, wow, that's a great question. I mean, that's, you know, definitely one of the deep theories that we're going to explore in the Acolyte. It's very much a subjective point of view. Like you said, there is that controversy over taking children away from their families at a very young age, and I think a lot of those themes and examples are going to be explored in the Acolyte. And in my character, Qimir, he has his own theories and his own path. And yeah, I think that's the beauty of our story, is that we're going to get the audience to think a little bit.
About Qimir, you have said that, quote, he is like Han Solo without the rizz. Yes. I'm sorry, sir, but you are wrong. I hate for you to be a guest on our show and correct you. He has lots of rizz.
Thank you.
We love him for his attitude. There's an edge. But can you talk about the similarities with Han Solo and the differences?
There's the similarities in terms that, you know, he's like the lone wolf type. You know, he likes to be alone and he likes to create his own path. And if anything, he likes to play both sides to his advantage. He kind of sees through the veil of things. And even though he acts a little aloof and kind of like a goofball. I think there are some gears that are happening inside of his head that maybe he is perhaps one step ahead than some of his counterparts.
Amandla, I feel like there's a little bit of Jedi in you in real life, and I'm talking about,
Oh my God, that's
like,
the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
well, this violin business that just, you know, shocked everyone online, went viral. So just for people who don't know, the John Williams wrote music just for you to play. I think it was on your grandfather's violin, and we saw it was so beautiful. What was that experience like, to weave your family musical history in with this new project in the Star Wars universe?
Oh man. Well, I started playing violin when I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade, and then by the time I was 12, I quit because I was doing these classical competitions, and they just weren't fun anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they were so intense and serious, and it took the joy away from it. And then my dad was going through the closet, and he was like, "Oh, look, your grandfather's violin," and I was like, "What? Why didn't you tell me this before?" It was a very dad-like thing, like, "Oh,
By the
turns
way."
out here's this, this
Yeah.
incredible family heirloom that's related to the thing that you do," you know. And so at that point, I decided to continue because I took it as a sign, like from my grandfather, who passed when I was very young, that I should continue. And so to be able to bring that violin with me into this moment of my life that I feel so incredibly blessed to be experiencing, and to be a part of the Star Wars family, and to work with these absolutely legendary artists, it just feels, it's indescribable. I'm having a hard time, but I feel so blessed and grateful.
Well, it was so beautiful to see.
Thank you.
And on that note, I have to say, I'm a little bit older than both of you, and so when the original Star Wars movies came out, my dad, who is an immigrant from Hong Kong, took me to see the movies. And we saw Princess Leia, we saw Han Solo. And for that now to become a show with such a diverse range of characters coming from all different backgrounds, I never would have imagined it. It's so very powerful. What does it mean to you both to be a part of something where people can see themselves even in fantasy?
For me, that's the reason why I love my job so much, and like what fills up my spirit and my heart is being able to be a part of this fantasy and joy that hopefully can make people feel represented and seen and heard, because everyone deserves that space of fantasy and play and imagination and joy. And when it comes to Star Wars, you know, it's a galaxy far, far away. It's an entire universe, and that means that it should reflect the entire world.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of our show. We get to show some faces that haven't quite been in Star Wars yet. And I remember talking to one of our producers, Rain Roberts, and before we started this, she had a talk with some younger kids at a school, and she mentioned like a younger Asian boy went up to her and asked her, you know, are we gonna get to see an Asian Jedi anytime soon? And here we are. You know, we have Yi Jung-jae playing this Master Soul, and we have another Han Solo type character in Qimir, and we get to inspire this younger generation to create even greater stories and to prolong this legacy of Star Wars. So it's a blessing.
Like the video? Then hit the button, or better yet, drop us a comment. Then check out our latest videos here. And don't forget to subscribe by hitting the button here for more celebrity interviews and entertainment news.